His name was Henry Wilson. To most people in the small town of Graywood, Iowa, the name meant one thing: calm, hope, and the assurance that things could still be fixed. Henry was 64. He had gray hair he never tried to hide, deep wrinkles around his eyes, and hands that remembered hundreds of touches, careful, gentle, almost paternal. The hands of a veterinarian. He had worked with animals for over 35 years. He started when Graywood was just a dot on the map, not a town where everyone knew everyone. His clinic stood on the corner of Maple Street, next to an old cafe and a pet supply store. A small building with a faded sign, Wilson Veterinary Care, which he painted himself every few years, though the paint always chipped away. People brought everyone to Henry: dogs, cats, parrots, guinea pigs, sometimes even raccoons or injured deer. He never refused. Even when he couldn't help financially, he found another way: with time, care, advice. He often said, if an animal is suffering, it doesn't care if you're having a hard day. It just needs help. Children in town grew up knowing him. Many remembered sitting in his office as kids, holding a warm cup of cocoa while Henry bandaged their beloved pet's paw. He always spoke softly, never rushed, and looked not just at the animal but at the person standing next to it. He could see fear, guilt, hope. His wife had passed away 10 years ago. After that, the clinic became more than work, it became his purpose. He lived in a small house nearby, where everything stayed almost the same as it was when she was alive. In the yard grew an old tree, under which dogs he had rescued often rested, those whose owners abandoned them or couldn't take them back. Henry called them temporary, though some stayed forever. The town loved him. When he walked down the street, people waved, greeted him, sometimes stopped to thank him. At the cafe, they always served him coffee without asking. To Graywood, Henry Wilson was more than a veterinarian, he was part of the town itself. Everything changed in one day. It was a normal morning. Cloudy, slightly cold. Henry opened the clinic at 7 as usual. He had already seen 2 patients when the door suddenly burst open, and a woman ran in carrying a large golden retriever. The dog was breathing heavily, its fur wet from the rain, eyes wide with fear. The woman's name was Sarah Miller. Everyone in town knew her. She worked at the school, was active, and often helped animal shelters. Her dog, Max, was loved almost as much as she was. Henry immediately realized it was serious. He didn't ask unnecessary questions. He quickly took the dog, laid him on the table, and began the examination. Internal bleeding. Possibly poisoning or trauma. Time was very short. He did everything he could. Everything his knowledge, experience, and the small clinic allowed. He fought for Max for nearly 2 hours. Sarah sat in the hallway, clutching her hands so tightly her knuckles went white. But sometimes, even decades of experience aren't enough. Max didn't make it. Henry stepped out to see Sarah. He removed his gloves, took a deep breath, and looked into her eyes. He knew how to speak to people in moments like this. But this time, words felt heavier than ever. She cried. First quietly, then loudly. He let her. He didn't interrupt, didn't defend himself. He just stayed there. That day, he went home early. For the first time in years, he closed the clinic before sunset. The next days were the quietest in Henry Wilson's life. The phone didn't ring. The clinic doors opened rarely, and every time he heard the creak of the hinges, something tightened in his chest, not from hope, but from fear. He caught himself dreading eye contact with people. The town had lived with him before. Now it seemed to live without him. At the cafe, where they had always poured him coffee, the barista asked for the first time, the usual. And there was no warmth in her voice. Just politeness. As if he had become a stranger. On the street, people walked past, some turned away, some looked at him with judgment, and a few with curiosity, as if he had become a story best discussed but unpleasant to touch. Henry read the comments online at night. He didn't want to, but he couldn't stop. Every word cut deeper than any professional failure. They called him outdated, incompetent, even dangerous. Some said he should have retired 5 years ago. Others demanded an investigation into his clinic. He never thought of himself as perfect. He knew not every life could be saved. But others used to understand that. Now, no one did. One evening, a boy of about 10 came to the clinic. He stood at the door holding a box. Inside was a small black cat with a bandaged paw. Henry recognized her. He had treated her a few weeks ago. "Mom said you might not want to," the boy started and then stopped. Henry knelt down to be at eye level with him. "I always want to help," he said. But the boy's mother never came inside. She waited outside, as if afraid to cross the threshold. After that, Henry seriously considered closing the clinic. Not forever, just for a while, he told himself. Just to let the town calm down. And to give himself a break. He began waking up in the middle of the night thinking about Max. About Sarah's eyes. About the moment when the dog's heart stopped. His whole life he had learned to accept losses like these, but he had never learned to accept judgment for them. One day, an envelope arrived at the clinic. Not an email. A real, paper envelope, without a return address. Inside were just a few lines. "We trusted you. You let us down. Some mistakes cannot be fixed." Henry sat with the letter for a long time. Then he folded it and placed it in a drawer with other documents. He didn't throw it away. Somehow, he couldn't. A week later, a man brought in an injured dog, hit by a car. They found him on the roadside. The man looked around nervously, as if afraid someone would see. I didn't know where else to go," he muttered. Henry worked silently. His movements were precise, as always. He saved the dog. But when it was over, the man quickly took the animal and left, not even saying thank you. That night, Henry sat in the empty clinic chair and allowed himself to cry for the first time in years. Not out of anger. Out of exhaustion. From the feeling that the life he had built over decades could vanish in a single day, a single mistake. He started packing his things. Slowly. Without resolve. Old photos, diplomas, thank you cards from clients, children's drawings that said, "Thanks, Dr. Henry." Each item reminded him that he hadn't always been the person everyone now judged him to be. And then, it happened, the moment that made him stop. Early in the morning, before opening, someone knocked on the clinic door. Insistently. Anxiously. On the porch stood a young woman with a baby in a carrier. Next to her was an old dog, barely able to stand. She was crying. "Please," she said. "They told me you were the only one who could help. I know what everyone is saying, but I have nowhere else to go." Henry looked at her for a moment. He could have refused. He could have said the clinic was closed. He could have walked away. But he opened the door wider. Henry worked with the old dog nearly until noon. His name was Charlie. He was over 12 years old, and his body was exhausted, not just from the injury, but from years of life. The woman who brought him sat on the floor in the corner, holding her baby and barely moving, as if afraid to disturb the fragile balance. Henry explained everything honestly. No promises. No sugarcoating. He told her that the chances were slim, and even if Charlie survived, the road ahead would be difficult. She listened and nodded, wiping her tears. "I just want him not to suffer," she said softly. "He's been with me since college. He's seen my whole life." Henry did everything he could. At one point, he felt that familiar tightening in his chest, the fear that it might not work out again. But this time, he didn't let fear guide his hands. He worked as he always had, carefully, patiently, with respect for every breath of the animal. Charlie survived. When the dog moved his paw on his own for the first time, Henry said nothing. He just exhaled and sat down. The woman cried, but this time it was relief, not sorrow. The news spread through town slowly. First, a few people. Then, acquaintances of acquaintances. Someone posted online, "I know everyone is quick to criticize Henry Wilson. But he just saved my dog when other clinics refused." It didn't immediately stop the wave of judgment. But it began to fade. A few days later, Sarah Miller came to the clinic. Henry saw her through the window and for a moment thought about not opening the door. His chest tightened. He didn't know what to expect, accusations, yelling, silence. But he opened it. Sarah looked tired. She held a leash. "Without Max, I've been thinking a lot about whether to come," she said. And what to say. They sat in his office, where Max had once lain on the table. "I was angry," she continued. "It was easier to blame someone than accept that I had lost him. And I let others make you the enemy." She fell silent. "I don't know if you can forgive me. But I want you to know, I know you did everything you could." Henry listened quietly. When she left, he stayed sitting for a long time. For the first time in weeks, he felt a heavy weight lift. Changes didn't happen instantly. Some people never returned. Some remained cold. But gradually, the clinic filled again, with barking, purring, children's laughter. One day, Henry noticed a new drawing on the bulletin board. It showed an old man with white hair and a big heart in his hands. Next to it, a caption, "Thank you for not giving up." In the evening, he sat in the yard under the same old tree. A few dogs lay beside him. He looked at the sky and thought about how easily a reputation could be destroyed, and how hard it is to stay human when judged. He realized a simple truth: people's love is fickle. But what he did mattered, no matter what. He couldn't save everyone. But he could remain true to himself. The next morning, he opened the clinic at 7 again. As always. And when the doors swung open, he met the new day not with fear, but with the quiet confidence of someone who knows, even after the darkest moment, it's worth continuing.